Good afternoon. My name is Preet Bharara, and I'm the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Today we announce more sad news out of Rikers Island. Specifically, we announce charges alleging a killing and a cover-up. Both relate to the untimely death of Ronald Spear, a Rikers Island inmate who died on December 19, 2012, after receiving a brutal beating. 3 men are charged. Brian Cole, a Rikers Island correction officer, is charged with violating Mr. Spear's civil rights under the U.S. Constitution by repeatedly kicking Mr. Spear in the head so hard that it caused bleeding in the brain. Mr. Spear died minutes after this violent assault. The other 2 corrections officers charged, Byron Taylor and Anthony Torres, are not accused of killing Mr. Spear, but along with Cole, they are charged with trying to cover up the vicious attack by conspiring to file false reports and otherwise obstructing justice. Anthony Torres has accepted responsibility for participating in a cover-up. He has pled guilty to federal offenses, and he is cooperating with the government. Let me emphasize at the outset that the charges against the other 2 defendants, Cole and Taylor, are allegations only, and that both these defendants are presumed innocent unless and until those allegations are proven beyond a reasonable doubt, which is what we intend to do. Now, the events leading up to the death of Mr. Spear, as described in the complaint, unfolded in the early morning hours of December 19, 2012, as I mentioned. At that time, the 52-year-old Mr. Spear resided in a medical unit on Rikers Island for very sick inmates in need of regular medical care. Mr. Spear, for his part, suffered from serious kidney disease and was being treated with dialysis. This is the scene described in the complaint unsealed today. At around 5 a.m. that morning, Mr. Spear got into an argument with Officer Cole about how soon the doctor could see him. Cole and Mr. Spear began to scuffle. Cole, by his own admission, punched Mr. Spear in the face and in the stomach. Officers Torres and Taylor saw and heard the commotion and intervened, bringing Mr. Spear to the floor and holding him there, face down, with Mr. Spear's arms restrained behind his back. Once Mr. Spear was restrained, that should have been the end of it. But tragically, it was not. As further alleged in the complaint, after Mr. Spear was lying prone on the ground, Cole began kicking his defenseless victim in the head again and again. Torres, who was restraining Mr. Spear, screamed for Cole to stop, reaching his own hand out to protect Mr. Spear's head, but Cole allegedly kept kicking, even injuring his own fellow officer's right hand in the process. When the beating finally stopped, Mr. Spear remained on the ground, moaning. Cole then allegedly grabbed Mr. Spear's head, told him to, quote, "Remember, I am the one who did this to you," close quote, and then dropped Mr. Spear's head to the ground. Mr. Spear died there on the jail floor minutes later. Now, that was the killing. Now let me talk about the cover-up. The alleged cover-up of this vicious crime began almost immediately. As charged, the 3 correction officers involved in the incident, Cole, Taylor, and Torres, and another correction officer who had witnessed the beating, promoted a false story, one in which Mr. Spear first attacked Cole with a cane, and one that omitted Cole's brutal assault of Mr. Spear after he had been restrained. And Cole, Torres, and Taylor agreed to leave Taylor out of the incident altogether, as described in the complaint. As the complaint also alleges, they lied on the use of force reports filed on the day Mr. Spear died. They lied to the Department of Corrections investigators. They lied to the Bronx District Attorney's Office, who investigated the death. And when Taylor came to testify before a federal grand jury in this district, he lied there too, allegedly. As further alleged in the complaint, serious shortcomings in the way Rikers handled the aftermath of the death helped pave the way for the false story the defendants were pushing. For example, the defendants were repeatedly urged by others to file, quote-unquote, consistent use of force reports. And when no cane was found at the scene of the assault, raising serious questions about Cole's false claim that he had been attacked with a cane, a new cane was simply procured from the supply room and passed off as the cane recovered from the incident. Officers Cole and Taylor may have thought that they could get away with it by covering it up. So long as the officers' stories were consistent in blaming the victim, Mr. Spear, they thought people would simply drop it. People would not care enough about the constitutional rights of an inmate. But they were wrong. The FBI pursued it, and we pursued it. As I have said before, Rikers inmates, although walled off from the rest of society, are not walled off from the protections of our Constitution. And no code of silence can keep them walled off or protect those corrections officers who violate inmates' rights. Now let me be clear, as I have been before. Being a correction officer at Rikers Island or anywhere else is a tough job, and it's a noble job. Most of the brave men and women serving as correction officers in New York City are dedicated public servants who would never think of brutally and without cause beating an inmate, much less to death. But when correction officers violate inmates' constitutional rights, and when others cover up for them under some misguided notion of loyalty or camaraderie, they commit federal crimes, and we will hold them accountable. And these cases, these civil rights cases, are hard cases to bring, very hard. Without a videotape or a cooperating witness, or where a cover-up or a code of silence prevails, they can be downright impossible to bring. And that's among the many reasons why people should commend the men and women standing to my left and right and others who couldn't be here for the tremendous work they have done to bring us to this point in making a case that it was very, very difficult to make, but a very important one. To mention some of them, I am joined here by our partners in this case, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, represented here today by Diego Rodriguez. I want to thank all those at the FBI who helped to bring this case together, including FBI Special Agents Rocky Warden and Vanessa Tibbetts, as well as Supervisory Special Agent James Barnacle. I also want to thank and recognize the dedicated career prosecutors who worked so hard to make this case possible out of my office, Assistant U.S. Attorneys Brooke Cuccinella and Jeanette Vargas, supervised by David Kennedy and Laura Eskenazi, the co-chiefs of our Civil Rights Unit, and Arlo Devlin Brown, the chief of the office's Public Corruption Unit. And finally, I want to commend each of the office's criminal investigators in the Southern District of New York who assisted and advanced the investigation, and in particular, the work of Investigator Steve Brasini. Now let me call to the podium FBI Assistant Director in Charge, Diego Rodriguez.
Thanks, Preet. Again, my name is Diego Rodriguez. I'm the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI New York Field Office. In the early morning hours of December 19, 2012, correction officers Brian Cole, Byron Taylor, Anthony Torres, and others at Rikers Island were alleged to have been involved in or witness to the assault of inmate Ronald Spear. After Spear demanded to see a doctor on staff and was denied access based on availability, a verbal confrontation arose between him and Officer Cole, eventually leading to a physical altercation. Several inmates in the infirmary looked on as Officer Cole allegedly hurled profanities at Spear, verbally abusing him after the prisoner had been restrained by officers in the facility. Officer Cole also allegedly punched Spear before delivering several kicks to his head. Mr. Spear died in the prison hallway following this confrontation. As Spear lay on the hard prison floor, moaning in pain during his last moments of life, Officer Cole delivered a chilling sentiment to his victim. "Remember that I'm the one who did this to you." Officers Cole, Taylor, and Torres, and others, in part or in whole, are alleged to have planted evidence and made false statements to authorities. Officer Torres ultimately disclosed the attempted cover-up to federal investigators, pled guilty earlier this week to obstruction of justice offenses, and is cooperating with the government. The vast majority of law enforcement officers serve their communities with honor and integrity. But when an officer's conduct exceeds the permissible use of force and violates a person's civil rights, the foundation of our democracy is threatened. Protecting civil rights is among the FBI's top priorities, and we are the lead federal agency in charge of investigating color of law abuses. In fact, in 2012, the year in which this incident occurred, nearly 42% of the FBI total civil rights caseload involved crimes of this nature. Today we hear the call of Spear and other victims whose constitutionally protected rights have been abused and violated. We remember their collective plea for justice, and we vow never to forget our obligation to remove from the criminal justice systems those who do not uphold the tenets of the legal system. Many thanks, as always, to our partners in this and many investigations: U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara, Chief of the Public Corruption Unit Arlo Devlin Brown, Co-Chiefs of the Civil Rights Division Lara Eskenazi and David Kennedy, Assistant U.S. Attorneys Brooke Cusinella and Jeanette Vargas, the New York City Department of Correction Investigative Division, and the Bronx District Attorney's Office. I would also like to thank and congratulate the investigative team that works together to address corruption in New York. Steve Brasini, criminal investigator from the Southern District, FBI Special Agents Vanette Tibbetts and Rocky Warden, and Supervisory Special Agent James Barnacle for their work on this important investigation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diego. Happy to take your questions.
Yes, as far as color of law cases, that's what we were specifically at, 42%. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not going to say what specifically the investigation remains open with respect to, but the investigation does remain open. And if and when there's the ability to charge additional people who were involved, we would do that. And I think with respect to what you're asking about on consistency, the complaint speaks for itself on that. I'm not. There are often many things that don't enable you to prosecute someone. Most commonly that a crime wasn't committed, and other times a lack of proof. I'm speaking generally, of course. I can't identify, why specifically we don't charge people. What we do is we specifically identify why we have charged people, and today we've charged 3. Yep. I think if you look at the complaint, there is some discussion of a back and forth they've had over some period of time, and I can't go beyond what's in the complaint, but there is some of that in the complaint. I think that's all that's described in the complaint regarding the care, yeah. Well, the Bronx DA's office was known to be looking at it. We received a letter from the family of the victim, of Mr. Spear, during the time the Bronx DA's office was pursuing the case, imploring us to take a look as well. And as I think you may know, with respect to civil rights cases, it is often true that we monitor what a local DA's office is doing, and if it makes sense for us to pursue something or an investigation or prosecution ourselves, we do that. And in this case, once the Bronx DA's office concluded that it wasn't going to go forward, then we took over the files and investigated ourselves and put the best people on it from the FBI in our office, and were able to bring the case that you see today. Yeah. Yeah, so look, we brought today's criminal case. We have a separate and distinct civil lawsuit that we have joined with respect to Rikers Island and the Department of Correction. And as I think you know from a public appearance that happened last week, negotiations are ongoing. We are impatient about it because I think anybody who sees what has been going on and the kinds of activities that have been uncovered in the past, including this week, would be impatient, wanting to make sure that every day that goes by where you don't have enforceable and enduring reform at Rikers Island is one day too many. And so I think, as you may know, at the most recent court conference, folks from our office stated their impatience and also stated we probably only need a short more period of time before we can reach a resolution with the city. And that date is June 22nd, and we fully expect that we will have a resolution by then. And if we don't, then we'll pursue all other options in court.
As far as reform efforts, the mayor is
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on any specific reform. And over time, to give the city some credit, there have been reforms announced periodically by Commissioner Pont, who I think is dedicated to the cause of reform. But we think that there need to be a lot more things done, and that's what we're in the process of negotiating with the city. Given how much time has gone by and how much bad culture has been allowed to be embedded in the place, we need a lot of things to happen. And once we reach agreement on all of those, I think people will see what the work has produced. Yeah, as I say in a way that is often not satisfactory to people, we have a very big radar. Everything is on our radar. I'm not going to comment about what we have joined or not joined, just like we didn't before we joined the other suit. We pay attention to everything, and if it's appropriate for us to take an independent action, we will. If it's appropriate for us to join an action, we will. If it's appropriate for us to let some other process wind its way through the courts, then we'll do that too. Yeah. Yeah, I think John already asked a question along those lines about the allegations of union officials and lawyers being in the room with folks demanding quote-unquote consistency in reports. And as I said, the investigation is ongoing. It remains open. And the allegations there speak for themselves, and I'm not going to go beyond that. I believe he was pre-trial. He had not been convicted of anything, so the presumption of innocence applied to him. And he was charged with, I think, a burglary offense. Thanks, everybody.